It's as close to time travel as we're gonna get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Hello there and Heidi hi campers, how are you? And welcome to this week of podcast where we fly through music history. We're looking at the week of December 2nd until December 6th. This was the week way back where Elton John ratted out his friend Rod Stewart. I tell you, with friends like this...
Do You Think I'm Sexy was stolen, but I have the record. It's by a guy called Jorge Ben.
Pigs Fly for Real. Well, a pig belonging to Pink Floyd in 1976.
There was also a highly paid marksman whose job was to deflate the pig with a well-placed shot in the event of it escaping.
Uh-oh. And who was gone at just age 52 in 1988 this week?
He had a heart attack at his home in Nashville, Tennessee, and died in hospital shortly afterwards.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
Look at this, what a chancer. In 1978, Rod Stewart was number one on the UK singles chart with the song Do You Think I'm Sexy? This was the singer's fifth UK chart topper. Now, a big old plagiarism lawsuit by a Brazilian musician confirmed that the song had been nicked from him. Then Rod had to, I suppose reluctantly, agree to donate all of his royalties from the song to the United Nations Children's Fund. Great cause. But here's Elton John ratting out Rod Stewart.
Do You Think I'm Sexy was stolen from something... We went to Rio together to the carnival, right. And the main thing that he bought a record in Rio, which was Ole Ole. No, that's the World Cup one, which he also stole. It's da 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 da. Not many people know it, but I have the record. It's by a guy called Jorge Ben.
Do you know who I'd love to have been able to have spent some time with and just hung out with on a night out? I'd say this guy was great crack. In 2014, the American saxophonist Bobby Keys died, probably best known for being the main sax player in the Rolling Stones for touring and studio session stuff.
Bobby Keys is not the best saxophone player in the world. He's the best rock and roll saxophone player in the world.
We had to find a rocker, and he was the only one.
Moves, plays the saxophone in one giant swagger.
He has that looseness about the rock and roll. He knows how to roll.
His life's been a life of being Bobby Keys, and must have been a hell of a ride for him.
This week in 1976, a giant 40-foot inflatable pig could be seen floating above London after breaking free from its moorings. The pig was being photographed for the new Pink Floyd album that would come in 1977 called Animals, and the pig was going to be on the front cover. So the Civil Aviation Authority issued a warning to all pilots that a flying pig was on the run, or fly, and that the pig eventually crashed into a barn in Kent, where a farmer complained that his cows had been scared by the incident.
There was also a highly paid marksman whose job was to deflate the pig with a well-placed shot in the event of it escaping. But unfortunately, for various different reasons, we didn't actually get the shot we wanted that day. The next morning, everyone reported for work, with the exception of the marksman.
He got stuck in traffic somewhere or overslept.
Anyway, by the time the marksman got there, the pig was at 20,000 feet and heading for Dover. There was a police helicopter did give chase, but the pig was actually was climbing like an F-14 at the time. And it was some time later, I think, it reached a certain height and then the various safety valves opened and it began a gentle descent and landed in a field in Kent.
This Week in Music History, a week in less than 10 minutes.
Back in 2014, another great fella went. I had the pleasure of meeting this lad a couple of times and I loved being able to talk to him in studio. The keyboard player Ian McLagan died. He was 69, had a stroke, God bless him. He was a member of the Small Faces and the Faces, but then again he worked with loads of bands like the Stones and Bob Dylan and Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Browne, Barry Bruce Springsteen even.
I'm actually 18 inside this aging body. The brain is still, the mental attitude is still 18, so I'm still scratching and biting and fighting my way through a day,
1971, the Montreux Casino in Switzerland burnt to the ground during a show by Frank Zappa. Now, of course, that whole incident was immortalised in Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water. On the night of the blaze, Funky Claude saved several people who, thinking they would be sheltered from the flames, had hidden in the casino. So here's how it all went down. From the stage, Frank Zappa actually shouts,
"Fire! Arthur Brown, in person." You'll just calmly go towards the exit, ladies and gentlemen. Go towards the exit, calmly.
In 1980, 2 months after the death of drummer John Bonham, Led Zeppelin made the decision to break up. The rest of the boys decided that it was not right to tamper with their legacy by bringing someone else in to play drums. And they said at the time, "We wish it to be known that the loss of our dear friend and the deep respect we have for his family, together with the deep sense of undivided harmony felt by ourselves and our manager, have led us to decide that we could not continue as we were."
He said, "You're all right." He said, "But you'd be a lot better if you had the best drummer in the world behind you." I said, yeah. I suppose you're him. He said, "Yeah, these are the songs we do. Just come along and play, but you make your own way there." Never a dull moment, really, until 1980.
This Week in Music History, the podcast.
The Beatles in 1965 this week played their last ever show in their hometown of Liverpool when they appeared at the Liverpool Empire during the group's final UK tour. 5,100 tickets were available. There was 40,000 people looking for them. Here's a little snapshot of life as a Beatle when arriving at the airport. At 5 a.m. is an opportunity for a big screaming event.
Paul again about the American tour. It was pretty rough. We've had so much success we don't care if it fades tomorrow. We've reached the point where we don't have worries anymore. That's the point most people want to reach. Not this lot. The point they want to reach is a Beatle, and if they did, the Beatles would have worries.
This week in 1968, the release of the Rolling Stones' new album, Beggar's Banquet, was celebrated at a party in London. There was a food fight. This journalist remembers
dodging these pies flying about over the top and hitting everybody in the head. And I looked behind me and suddenly I saw Brian Jones' grinning face come down from the table. He had this huge pie in his hand and he was bringing it back to let me have it, right, under the table. And just as he did it, somebody, I don't know who it was because I couldn't see above me, got him. And this pie splattered into his face and he went backwards. But I just missed being pied by Brian Jones at that particular thing. But it was great fun, it was terrific. Nobody had ever done that before at a press launch. That was another thing,
This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
1966, the Beatles recorded Christmas and New Year's greetings for pirate radio stations Radio Caroline and Radio London. Both of these stations were broadcasting from ships anchored off the British coastline and in what they say was international waters, etc., etc.
This is Ringo Starr, and I'd just like to say Merry Christmas and a really Happy New Year to all listeners.
This is John Lennon saying on behalf of the Beatles, have a very happy Christmas and a good New Year.
This is Paul McCartney here. I'd just like to wish you everything you wish yourselves for Christmas.
George Harrison speaking. I'd like to take this opportunity of wishing a very Merry Christmas, listeners everywhere.
Finally, sadly, in 1988 this week, at the age of 52, American singer-songwriter Roy Orbison was gone.
He had a heart attack at his home in Nashville, Tennessee, and died in hospital shortly afterwards. He became one of the biggest stars of the 60s, and only recently was in the charts again with Bob Dylan and George Harrison, the Travelling Wilburys.
And that, boys and girls, is a look at the week December 2nd until December 6th. We've just time-travelled our way through that week in less than 10 minutes because that's what we do. My name is Marty Miller. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Till the next time.
This Week in Music History. A week in less than 10 minutes.